Today we learn that greed is like a poison that spreads through the blood. When one person chooses greed over family, it destroys not just them, but everyone they love for many years to come. Before we begin this powerful story, please subscribe to our channel for more African folktales full of ancient wisdom that guides us even today. Long ago, in the village of Akokoro, lived a man named Durojaiye. His name meant, wait and enjoy wealth, and truly, the gods had blessed him. His compound stood near the great baobab tree where the village elders met. 3 mud houses with red clay roofs housed his family. Durojaiye had 2 sons, Kelechi, whose name meant, thank God, and Obinna, meaning, father's heart. His wife Nina, father's mother, tended their vast yam farm that stretched to the river's edge. Their daughter Adunni, sweet to have, helped her mother with the harvest. The family owned more cattle than any other in Akokoro. Their granary overflowed with yams, cassava, and millet. Palm wine flowed freely when guests visited. The sound of their children's laughter mixed with the evening drums. But wealth without wisdom is like a sharp knife in a child's hand. One evening, as crickets sang and the cooking fires crackled, Durojaiye called his sons to sit under the mango tree. The full moon cast long shadows across the compound. My sons, he began, his voice heavy with age, I am growing old. The time has come to speak of what will happen when I join the ancestors. Kelechi, the elder son, leaned forward. His eyes gleamed in the firelight. Father, surely you have many years left. Maybe, Durojaiye nodded, but a wise man plants seeds before the rains come. I have decided. When I die, Kelechi will inherit the largest portion of land and cattle, as tradition demands. Obinna's face darkened. And what of me, father? You will receive your share, my son. The eastern fields and 20 cattle. That night, as the owls hooted and the night wind rustled the palm leaves, poison entered Obinna's heart. He lay on his mat, staring at the thatched roof, counting what his brother would receive. Greed whispered in his ear like a snake. Days passed. Obinna could not shake the bitterness growing inside him. He began to watch Kelechi with suspicious eyes. Every time his older brother laughed with their father, every time Durojaiye praised Kelechi's work on the farm, the poison spread deeper. One afternoon, while drawing water from the well, Obinna spoke to his friend Emeka. Brother, Obinna said, his voice low, is it fair that one son should receive so much more than another? Emeka shrugged. It is the way of our fathers. But what if there was another way? Obinna's eyes narrowed. What if both sons could inherit equally? That evening, Obinna approached his wife Chioma in their hut. The oil lamp flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. My husband, Chioma noticed his troubled face, what weighs on your heart? Kelechi will become rich while our children remain poor, Obinna whispered. Is this the life we want for our family? Chioma felt fear creep into her chest. What are you thinking? Nothing yet, Obinna replied. But sometimes, what seems set in stone can still be changed. Weeks passed. The harmattan winds brought dust from the desert, and the village prepared for the harvest festival. But in Obinna's heart, a dark plant was growing like a poisonous plant. He began to meet secretly with Ugochi, an old woman known for her knowledge of herbs and curses. Her hut stood at the village edge, where the forest began and strange shadows moved at night. There are ways, Ugochi cackled, her teeth yellowed like old bones, to change a man's mind about his inheritance. What ways? Obinna asked, though his heart already knew he was walking down a dark path. Your father is strong, but even strong men can fall sick. And when they recover, their minds sometimes forget things. Or remember them differently. Obinna felt his soul grow cold, but the greed burned hotter than his conscience. What would you need? He whispered. Bring me silver. And something that belongs to your father, a piece of his clothing, some hair from his head. The spirits require a connection. That night, Obinna stole into his father's hut while Durojaiye slept. He cut a small piece from his father's favorite wrapper and pulled a single gray hair from his head. The old man stirred but did not wake. Ugochi worked her dark magic under the new moon. She mixed herbs that grew in graveyards with the hair and cloth. She whispered words that should never be spoken, calling on spirits that love chaos more than peace. "Give this to your father in his palm wine," she instructed Obinna. "But remember, once you start down this path, there is no turning back. Curses are like rivers, they always find their way to the sea." Obinna took the small clay pot, his hands shaking. As he walked home, the night animals seemed to watch him with knowing eyes. An owl hooted 3 times, a sign of coming death. The next evening, the family gathered for their usual meal. Nina had prepared pounded yam with bitter leaf soup. The palm wine was sweet and fresh. Obinna waited until his father's cup was empty, then refilled it, adding the cursed mixture. "To your health, father," he said, raising his own cup. Durojaiye smiled and drank deeply. "To my family," he replied. Within days, the old man began to change. His memory became cloudy like muddy water after rain. He would start sentences and forget how to finish them. Sometimes he would look at his own sons as if seeing strangers. As Durojaiye's mind weakened, Obinna saw his chance. He began to whisper lies into his father's confused ears. "Father," he would say when they were alone, "don't you remember? You promised both sons would inherit equally. Kelechi is trying to cheat me." The old man would nod slowly, his eyes clouded with confusion. Meanwhile, Kelechi watched his father's decline with growing worry. He called the village medicine man, Namdi, to examine Durojaiye. "This is not a natural sickness," Namdi declared after checking the old man's pulse and looking into his eyes. "Someone has called dark spirits into this compound." Kelechi felt ice in his veins. "Who would do such a thing?" "Only someone very close to your father could have gotten what was needed for such a curse," the medicine man replied. "Be careful, young man. When evil enters a family, it spreads like oil on water." That night, Kelechi confronted his brother by the river where the frogs sang their evening songs. "Obinna, what have you done?" "I don't know what you mean," Obinna replied, but his eyes would not meet his brother's. Father was healthy and strong. Now look at him. The medicine man says someone has cursed him. Obinna laughed, but it sounded hollow like an empty pot. "Maybe the gods are tired of your pride, brother. Maybe they want true justice." As Durojaiye's condition worsened, Obinna's plan succeeded. The confused old man called both sons to his bedside one evening when the cooking fires burned low. "My sons," he wheezed, his voice weak as a dying wind, "I want to change my will. Both of you, both should inherit equally." Kelechi's heart broke. "Father, this is not what you wanted. You are not thinking clearly." "I am thinking more clearly than ever," Durojaiye insisted, though his eyes wandered like a lost child's. "Obinna is right. It is only fair." The village scribe was called to record the new inheritance. Under the light of oil lamps, with the night wind moaning through the compound, Durojaiye divided his wealth equally between his sons. Obinna smiled in the darkness, but it was the smile of a hyena over fresh meat. Within a month, Durojaiye died in his sleep. Some said his heart simply stopped. Others whispered that curses have a way of claiming the one who cast them, but also the one they were cast upon. After the funeral drums fell silent and the 7 days of mourning ended, the real trouble began. Obinna had gained his equal share, but greed is never satisfied. It only grows hungrier. He looked at Kelechi's cattle and thought, "Why should we both be the same when I am smarter?" He looked at the best farmland and thought, "I deserve more for all my suffering." One night, Obinna's cattle mysteriously broke through the fence and trampled Kelechi's yam seedlings. The next week, Kelechi's goats were found dead by the river, poisoned. "Brother," Kelechi pleaded, "we are family. Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" Obinna replied. I cannot help it if your animals are careless. The brothers who once played together as children now watched each other like enemies. Their wives stopped speaking. Their children were forbidden to play together. Nina, their mother, wept every night. What has happened to my family? She cried to the ancestors. What evil spirit has entered my home? But the ancestors were silent. Some sins create their own punishment. The feud between the brothers split the entire village like a crack splits a clay pot. Some families supported Kelechi, believing he was the rightful heir being cheated. Others sided with Obinna, saying all sons deserve equal treatment. Arguments broke out in the market. Old friendships died. Even the village chief, Akokoro, could not bring peace. This is not just about land and cattle, the wise chief told his council. This is about something darker. When greed enters one family, it spreads to touch us all. The annual harvest festival became a tense affair. Instead of celebrating together, the village was divided. Kelechi's supporters sat on one side of the village square, Obinna's on the other. The drums beat, but the sound was hollow. The dancers moved, but joy had left their steps. Children felt the tension and stopped playing their usual games. Ugochi, the old woman who had started it all, watched from the shadows and cackled. Chaos was her favorite harvest. As years passed, the poison in Obinna's heart spread to his children. His son Ikenna learned to lie and cheat to get what he wanted. His daughter Nkechi became jealous of her cousin's success. Kelechi's children also changed. Constant fear and anger made them suspicious of everyone. His son Chidibir started carrying a machete everywhere he went. His daughter Ifeoma refused to marry because she trusted no one. The once blessed family compound became a place of whispers and shadows. Where laughter once echoed, now only bitter words were heard. One evening, during the season when the harmattan winds brought dust storms, Ikenna and Chidibir fought over a water hole. Both young men claimed their fathers had given them rights to use it. The fight escalated. Machetes flashed in the moonlight. Blood fell on the dry earth like the first drops of rain. Chidibir fell first, a deep cut across his chest. Ikenna tried to help him, suddenly realizing what he had done, but it was too late. What have I done? Ikenna cried, holding his dying cousin. What have we all become? But some doors, once opened, can never be closed. The death of Chidibir shattered what remained of the family. Kelechi, mad with grief, challenged Obinna to single combat by the old baobab tree where their father once sat. Your greed has killed my son, Kelechi roared, his eyes red with tears and rage. Now you will pay. I never wanted this, Obinna replied, but his voice shook like leaves in a storm. For the first time, he saw clearly what his choices had created. The brothers fought as the sun set behind the palm trees. Villagers gathered in a circle, but no one tried to stop them. This had been coming for too long. Both men were skilled fighters, but rage made them careless. As the moon rose full and bright, both brothers lay dying in the dust beneath the baobab tree. Forgive me, Obinna whispered to Kelechi as life left his body. I destroyed us all. It is too late for forgiveness, Kelechi replied. Look what we have left our children. The great baobab tree that had sheltered the family for generations now sheltered only death. Nina, now an old woman bent with sorrow, looked at the bodies of her sons and let out a wail that echoed across the village. Birds flew from the trees. Dogs howled in sympathy. Chioma and Adiz, the wives of the dead brothers, held each other and wept. Their children stood like statues, too shocked for tears. What do we do now? Chioma asked. We survive, Nina replied, her voice hollow as an empty gourd. If we can. But survival was harder than they imagined. The land that had once been blessed now seemed cursed. The rains came too late or too early. Crops failed. Cattle died of strange diseases. Other villages began to avoid Akokoro. That place is cursed, traders whispered. Bad spirits live there now. Young people started leaving for the cities, afraid to stay in a place where families destroyed themselves. The village that had once been proud and prosperous began to shrink like a fruit left too long in the sun. Ikenna, now marked as a killer though it was self-defense, could find no peace. He drank palm wine from morning to night, trying to forget his cousin's dying eyes. His own children learned to fear their father's drunken rages. The other surviving children of Kalechi and Obinna inherited their father's hatred along with their land. They continued the feud even though they had forgotten what started it. "Why do we fight them?" asked Amara, Ikenna's youngest daughter. "Because they are our enemies," her older brother Emeka replied. "Father says they want to take everything from us." "But why are they our enemies?" Emeka could not answer. The hatred had become like tradition, something passed down without question. Meanwhile, the family's wealth continued to shrink. Legal battles over land consumed their resources. No one trusted anyone enough to work together. The farms lay partially hollow because there were not enough hands to work them properly. The great compound where Durojaiye once held court was now divided by fences and walls. Where one family had lived in harmony, now several small households struggled separately. As the feuding family destroyed itself, the village of Akokoro withered around them. The market that had once bustled with trade became empty most days. The school closed because too many families had moved away. The river that had once brought life to the community seemed to run slower and muddier. Fish became scarce. Even the great baobab tree began to shed its leaves out of season. Chief Akokoro, now an ancient man, called the remaining elders together one evening as the crickets sang their mournful songs. "We must do something," he said, his voice cracking with age. "This curse is killing not just one family, but our entire community." "What can we do?" asked Elder Nwoko. "The damage is done. Greed has poisoned the very soil of this place." "Maybe," the chief replied, "but curses can sometimes be broken. It requires great sacrifice and genuine repentance." But who among the fighting family members had the wisdom to make such a sacrifice? Who could put the good of future generations above their own bitter pride? Years passed like seasons of drought. The fourth generation of Durojaiye's family had almost nothing left of their ancestors' wealth. The land was divided into plots too small to be profitable. The cattle had long since been sold to pay for lawyers and medicines. Kemi, Durojaiye's great-great-granddaughter, stood in the ruins of the once great compound. Weeds grew through cracks in the clay walls. The roof of the main house had collapsed during the last rainy season. In her hand, she held a letter from the government. The bank was taking what remained of the family land for unpaid taxes. "Great-grandfather," she whispered to the wind, "what would you say if you could see us now?" An old woman approached from the shadows. It was Ugochi, ancient now but still alive, her eyes still gleaming with malice. "Your ancestor would say that every family gets what it deserves," the old witch cackled. "He raised sons who valued wealth more than love. This is the natural result." Kemi looked at the withered old woman with new understanding. "You started this, didn't you? You helped my great-great-uncle destroy his own father." Ugochi shrugged. "I only gave him what he already wanted. The poison was already in his heart. I just helped it grow. And now? Now you have nothing left to lose," Ugochi smiled. "The curse has run its course. Your family name will die with you. There will be nothing left for future generations to remember except the ashes of what greed destroyed." Kemi walked through the abandoned village of Akokoro as the sun set one final time over the ruins. Most of the compound stood empty. The market square was overgrown with grass. Even the great baobab tree had finally died, its massive trunk hollow and dry. She was the last of Durojaiye's bloodline. Her cousins had died young from diseases that money might have cured, if the family had worked together instead of fighting. Others had left for distant cities and never returned. The wealth that had taken generations to build had been destroyed in decades by greed and mistrust. The land that had fed hundreds now fed only termites and wild grass. As the first stars appeared, Kemi lit a small fire in the ruins of her great-great-grandfather's house. She burned the last documents that proved her family's claim to anything, deeds to empty land, records of debts that could never be paid. "This is what greed leaves behind," she said to the darkness. "Nothing but ashes and memories of what could have been." The wind carried the ashes away into the night, scattering them like the dreams of a family that had once been blessed but chose destruction instead. In the morning, Kemi would leave Akokoro forever. There was nothing left to stay for. Greed is indeed a fire that burns not just the hand that holds it, but can destroy an entire lineage. When we choose personal gain over family love, when we value wealth more than relationships, we plant seeds that will grow into thorns that cut our children and our children's children. Durojaiye's family had everything. Land, cattle, respect, and most importantly, each other. But one man's greed poisoned it all. The wealth is gone. The family is scattered. The village is dead. All because someone believed that having more was worth more than having each other. Remember this story when temptation whispers that you deserve more than your share. Remember it when jealousy suggests that someone else's blessing is your loss. Remember it when pride tells you that winning is more important than peace. If this story has touched your heart and opened your eyes to wisdom, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share these powerful African folktales not just to entertain, but to help us all learn from the mistakes of those who came before us. Your support helps us continue bringing these important lessons to the world. ****